So you're listening to the Denmar Files, and this is part 1. Before I dive into this, I want to give a content warning. For those of you struggling with mental health, you might find the conversations I'm having here hard because they might trigger you. They might bring up things in your own lives, so I just want you to be aware of that. I don't share anything particularly intense, but I felt it would be amiss of me to not mention what these episodes are about. As I was leaving to head into Denmar on that Sunday, just after lunchtime, I picked up my bag from the lounge where I had put it down, waiting for the call to say that they were ready to admit me. And as I fetched my bag, I found a pile of letters tied up with a neat little red bow. And I realized that my youngest, Emily, had written me a letter for every day. And I've got these letters here. Emily is very talented artistically. She draws incredibly well, and each card has a picture. And the first one is Batman in the form of a cat. So this episode is called Batman Cat. And I'm going to open the episode each time with Emily's words to me, because I think they are a beautiful example of support. Dear Dar, it's your first day there, and it's probably really scary, but I'm super proud of you for doing this. You're really brave, just like Batman. I hope the people there are kind to you. I'm sorry you've been feeling so sad. It really sucks, and I know how hard it is. So I'm so proud of you for taking a step to get better. Love, M. So today I want to talk a little bit about the decision to go in. And you're going to hear reflections from me at the facility as well. I'm going to pop little pieces in to the recording of my audio reflections while at Denmar. But I got to the point where I was feeling incredibly desperate. Every single day was very, very difficult. Even waking up was difficult. It was even hard to swing my legs down to stand up each and every day. In fact, I realized what I was experiencing to quite an extreme degree is what people call passive suicidal ideation. So what that is in essence is you're not actively thinking about suicide or researching ways to take your own life, but you have often very dark thoughts about not wanting to be alive anymore. One of the most extreme thoughts I had was hoping to get a terminal illness, because that would just make everything easier. That low point was really a highlight to me that I either get help or it might progress to something more serious. One of the research papers I read about passive suicidal ideation is how quickly that can switch over to active suicidal ideation. And so making this decision, despite the perceived shame, and I did have this perceived shame, it was hard to tell colleagues. I was worried about how they were going to react. You'll hear in the next episode, they were incredibly gracious. But there was also the fear of the unknown. I'm going to let Bruce in Denmar share a little bit about what it felt like being admitted. It's now Sunday. I saw my psychiatrist on Thursday, and she was quite concerned about me for many reasons, which I might or might not go into. But she suggested I consider being admitted to Denmar, the psychiatric hospital, for probably 5 days, just to have some space and time, some time for focused therapy work, some time for me to think and have headspace to just consider why things are so hard at the moment. One of the big things that was really apparent to me right from the beginning is that seeing others who are in a similar space to me and interacting with in group therapy sessions, others who get it, and having the opportunity to tell one's story without judgment and without people feeling the need to get advice, but just holding each other's kind of journeys safely was a really profound experience for me. But that stigma remained, and I kept thinking, what does this mean for me in terms of how people perceive me, how people are going to think about me in the future. And so that's obviously a really big thing, particularly for men, I think, who struggle with their mental health and who find help. And I reflected on this too as I was sitting outside in the garden at Denmar on my first day there. One of my main motivations for saying, okay, I'll do this, deciding that it is something that I should do, is I speak passionately about men taking care of their mental health and advocate a lot for men's mental health and for removing the stigma of getting help. Yeah, so, this is, in one sense for me, wasn't the reason I decided to voluntarily come and spend time here. I kind of did think that I need to be willing, let me put it this way, as much as I'm willing to talk about the importance of men taking care of their mental health and getting the help they need, as much as that is true, I need to put my money where my mouth is and be willing to get the help I need, even if it seems strange to me. It's a very surreal feeling being here. I've visited people here before. I've known people who have been admitted to Denmar before and to other places. And here I am now. And what I can say is, since I made the decision to come here, there's kind of been a sense of relief that I've been feeling. I don't know if I've necessarily been feeling better. I maybe have. Been a bit of a lightness to my general mood, but there just has been a sense of relief, What also struck me in my first hours at Denmar was in the 2 men's wards that they have there. Many of the men who are in there, I would say, are in my age range. So probably between 40 and 55, and some older folk as well. And I keep wondering about this cultural zeitgeist that those of us in that age range grew up in, that we have to keep a stiff upper lip, we have to be in control, we have to be in charge. Cowboys don't cry, we don't speak about our feelings. And even those of us who grew up in in gentler environments when it came to masculinity, I think still, because of the nature of culture's view of men when we grew up, I think there's a real kind of piece there that struck me that as important, particularly around men's mental health. The other thing that struck me is there are 8 wards in the facility, and only 2 of them are devoted to men. If you look at the mental health crisis for men currently, there have to be more men who need help out there. There have to be so many others who are not asking for help, who are not getting help, and are maybe turning to numbing or other more extreme measures to deal with the challenges they're facing. So that was quite a profound realization. I also felt an intense sense of exhaustion. It's almost as if as I stepped into the facility, every responsibility was lifted from my shoulders. I didn't have to think about anything, even making food, feeding the dogs, small things like that. I didn't even have to think about those things. And it's as if my body gave up holding everything together. I don't think I've ever slept as much in 5 days as I did when I was in Denmar. And I learned over the course of the week, and I'll share more about this in future reflections, that our bodies keep the score. I know that sounds like a cliche because you hear lots of people saying it, but it's true. And if we don't get help, something will give. And I knew then, in that moment, as I sat there in the garden reflecting on the stigma and my willingness to go against the stigma and be admitted, I realized that heeding my doctor's advice was the best decision I could have ever made. I'm going to close with some thoughts from that first day. I'm mainly documenting this for me, to make sure that I remember where I'm at, and then if I do release these episodes, that they might be in some way a little bit of an encouragement to others who may be experiencing the same. So note the sound quality on these will include aeroplanes flying overhead like is happening at the moment, but hoping that the words that I share and the thoughts that I share might be helpful to someone, or might even open a window to understanding for others. Yeah, nothing more to say today. I think those are my words.